An affidavit that details the corrupt and fraudulent activities that preceded the collapse of the VBS Mutual Bank has come to light. The affidavit by VBS former chairperson Tshifhiwa Matodzi was submitted before the High Court in Pretoria on Wednesday as part of his plea agreement. Matodzi pleaded guilty to charges that include fraud and racketeering that relate to the collapse of VBS. In the affidavit, Matodzi implicates several people and organizations for looting funds from the collapsed bank. Matodzi states that he, alongside several other employees of the bank, were involved in irregular activities in order to loot money from the bank. He also implicated others in luring several municipalities to make illegal investments into the bank. The affidavit also details the millions of rands and properties that were unduly given to politicians and other influential persons by the bank. Meanwhile, ANC spokesperson in Limpopo, Jimmy Machaka, says one of the issues to be discussed in their provincial executive committee meeting today is the VBS saga. This follows the publishing of a plea agreement affidavit submitted by convicted former VBS chairperson Tshifhiwa Matodzi. ANC members Florence, Radzilani and Msiza are implicated in the affidavit for allegedly receiving funds irregularly from the now defunct VBS Bank.
We have also noted that various former and current leaders of the ANC are mentioned in the affidavit, which was part of the plea bargaining. And of course, as an organization, we are very disappointed because throughout, we are made to believe that the matter of VBS has reached finality as far as it relates to various leaders of the ANC. Of course, the ANC will digest this matter because in any event, there's nothing new from that matter. We have always known that certain leaders have been mentioned, but there's not been any work on the part of law enforcement agency in a form of charging them criminally that will warrant the ANC to act otherwise. But our stance has never changed. We still maintain that those that have participated in the collapse of the VBS must face the full might of the law. We are not going to protect anyone.
SABC News reporter Pimani Baloyi is tracking the story and joins us live from Polokwane. Good afternoon, Pimani. I mean, that affidavit is around 263 pages and has explosive allegations that are laid bare. What else can we expect from the ANC in Limpopo as it relates to those who have been implicated?
Good afternoon, Station. Good afternoon to our viewers. You are indeed correct. 263 pages in that affidavit. And most of it is words that he's written, statements that he say, I personally know of 1, 2, 3, 4. But further to that is statements. It could be bank statements, letters, and other documentation that is evidencing the details that he wrote in that statement, Nastasia. So the ANC in the province, you've heard what Jimmy Machaka said. They are having their PEC meeting today, and we are expecting to get an update from them. What is the outcome of the PEC meeting? Because we know the PEC is the biggest decision-making structure in this province. So we need to find out, since they say it's one of the topics that will be discussed, what is the way forward? That's something that we will be tracking. But Nastasia, that 263-page report details a lot of explosive information, as you rightfully stating, implicating a number of people. But let me take it just a little back, Nastasia, just to take our viewers through how this story started. It was back in 2016 when we learned that there was looting of funds in the what was called VBS, former Vendor Mutual Bank, which basically was just a mutual bank which mostly was used by locals in that area to put their savings in. And when we first learned, this is when municipalities at that time were investing their funds in the bank, which went against the Municipal Financial Management Act, which prohibited municipalities from investing in mutual banks, but they could only invest in commercial banks. So when that scandal started, we know that back in 2016, we know that an investigation was instituted by Advocate Terry Motau, and he released a statement about 2 years later at around 2018, which was called the Great Bank Heist, that detailed a lot of information that has now been confirmed by Mr. Matodzi's statement, which was released released, as you rightfully stated, on Wednesday at the High Court in Pretoria. So what we do know is that, number one, he implicates himself. He says, me alongside other executives at VBS worked deliberately to loot money from that bank to enrich themselves, but also to enrich some politicians and other influential people. Some of these influential people that he mentions in that statement is former Bavenda King Mpepo Ramaburana, whom, according to that affidavit, the former king got monthly installments of around 300,000 every month. And in the statement, he says the king always complained that he needed more money, but he also got two luxurious, like valued at 5 million, some of which vehicles that, according to Mr. Matodzi, he allegedly got. But he also mentions political parties. Nastasia, I want to speak specifically about what Mr. Matodzi says about political party, the EFF. According to him, he, as the chairperson of VBS, he reached out to the EFF after he had had damning statements talking about how then President Zuma had gotten money from VBS to fund his Nkandla household. And he went to them, he reached out to them to say, as a black political party, you are collapsing a black bank that is benefiting black communities in rural areas. May we please work together to ensure that you do not further tarnish our reputation and ensuring that we don't get further clients. And he says in the first meeting, it was himself alone as a representative of VBS. He met with the party leader, Mr. Julius Malema, the deputy chairperson, the party deputy president, Mr. Floyd Chibambo, alongside Mr. Marshall Dlamini. He says in that meeting, Mr. Dlamini did not really say much, but at the end of the meeting, there were several meetings, and there were donations, as he calls them, that were made to the party, but to a company that was created in the name of Mr. Shibambu's younger brother, is called Sgamega. A 5 million rand initial donation was made to that party, and he says following that, 1 million rand every month was made to the same bank account. But further to that, there were refurbishments that the bank supported, that funded in a restaurant that, according to that statement, says was owned, a restaurant that was owned by the EFF. So these are some of the damning findings. But further, there's the ANC in the province that's also implicated. You heard me saying that we will await the PEC meeting to find out what is their way forward. But we've seen party leaders, the current deputy chairperson of the ANC in the province, Ms. Florence Radzilani. We know since the great Advocate Mutahu's report that she was implicated for getting a Christmas gift, allegedly getting a Christmas gift. He confirms that, stating that Ms. Radzilani even asked for more money after receiving that Christmas gift. So these are some of the allegations that are stand to be tested before a court, because, Nastasia, you may recall, this is his plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to all charges against him, but there are other people who are yet to be tried for similar allegations, and we do know that the pre-trial hearing for his 4 co-accused will be on the 22nd of July. But what I also need to mention, Nastasia, is that Mr. Matodzi is actually the second VBS executive to be criminally charged and convicted for this crime, the first one being the former chief financial officer, Mr. Philip Truter, who also took a plea deal in 2020 and was convicted to 10 years imprisonment. He started serving that term in 2020. We expect that soon he might be eligible for parole. We'll be following up on that story. So the second VBS person who, and you can remember, Nastasia, we're talking about looting of about 2 billion rand, and 2 billion rand, that is from, you know, your ordinary South Africans who worked very hard for that money, including people who had stockpiles. We've been to the area in Toyando, spoken to several people who invested in that bank, some are informal traders, people who sell on the streets, who would say, you know, because we knew that we got money in cash value on a daily basis and we knew it would not do much for us, we would come together from stokvels and put very little daily, it could be 20 rand daily, invested in VBS, knowing that at the end of a long period they would be able to withdraw it. Some said they would take their school children to universities. Others were able to build homes for their children. So these are the people who lost out in that process, who are saying they are grateful that there's been 2 arrests now. They hope that there will be further arrests, but they also hope that in some way they will be able to recoup their funds. Nastasia?
Well, Pimani, thank you so much for that detailed update, and we look forward to catching up with you a little bit later on just to get a little bit more clarity in terms of what else it has been discussed when it comes to the ANC in Limpopo at the PEC relating to the VBS saga. But thank you so much for your time. That is Pimani Baloyi.